Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. Well, today seems like it's already flying by. It's already almost lunchtime, at least where I'm at. And yeah, it seems like not too long ago when I did my very first episode from this morning on this brand new equipment, which, well, you have to see to believe with Luxior, Giada's Gift, so check that episode out at some point. Also check out my episode on Quasar, Augur of Agonies, and this is a really sweet commander that I think a lot of players out there are going to be very excited about, and it can do some incredibly powerful and even broken things in the right build. And also make sure you check out my other episode. You have already done 3 today. She today is flying by on Black Market Tycoon, who's gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Okay, terrible Godfather impressions aside, check that out at some point. But not before you stay tuned to this episode on my favorite commander so far with Toluz, Clever Conductor. And speaking of being clever, well, you can be really clever as well by blaming Eddie in the comments below because, well, whenever I make a mistake, it's always Eddie's fault, so blame Eddie for everything. Okay, thanks. So, Toluz, Clever Conductor. Now, my apologies if I'm not saying that name correct, but the way that I'm saying it is basically the exact same as the cat from Aristocats with Toluz, so I could be very wrong on that, but that's what it reminds me of. Anyways, Toluz is a 3/1 human rogue that costs, get ready for it, Azorius, blue, Dimir. So yeah, you could spend white, blue, blue, you could spend white, blue, black, you could spend blue, blue, black, or blue, blue, blue. There's a lot of options here. Regardless, when Toluz enters the battlefield, it connives, which again is a new mechanic from this set. So you draw a card, then discard a card. If you discard a non-land card, you get a counter on this creature. But this is where the card gets really spicy. Whenever you discard one or more cards, exile them from your graveyard, and when Toluz dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hand. So first up, obviously this commander essentially loots when it enters the battlefield, again with that connive, so that's some nice additional card selection. But what it really is card advantage, because now whenever you're discarding cards, you're kind of storing them up for later essentially. Because instead of those discarded cards going into your graveyard, they are getting exiled with this commander, and then when this commander dies, well, you just get a giant pile of cards back that you had exiled previously. So again, it essentially turns any kind of looting effects from card selection into straight up card advantage, which can be absolutely incredible. And there are some really interesting, unique, and powerful things that you can do with Toluz, and yeah, before we get into those, really quick, let's talk about the card that probably inspired the design of this commander, and one that can be incredibly spicy in the right build. And that would of course be Bag of Holding, which says whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. You can also pay 2 to tap and loot, and by paying 4 and tapping, you sacrifice it and return all cards exiled with it to their owner's hand. So obviously this card can be very impactful in certain decks out there that might be, you know, looting a ton and discarding a bunch of cards, maybe cycling cards. Yeah, I mean, you basically are storing up cards again for later. Now, obviously the difference between this and the brand new Toluz is, well, this is kind of a riskier play with this card. Because essentially if this is removed and you don't have a way to actually, you know, pay that 4 tap and sacrifice this right then and there, then, well, you just lose out on all those cards that you exiled. Versus with the new commander Toluz, well, if Toluz dies, that's actually a good thing because you're getting all those cards back. So there is no kind of a paid activation with this brand new commander, and I really like that design because there are a lot of powerful things that you can do with it. Now, first up, and actually ironically I brought up some wheel effects on a previous episode from today, but yeah, Tolarian Wind's Windfall, those types of wheel effects can be fantastic with this commander. Tolarian Wind says discard your hand, then draw that many cards, so again, typically you just lose out on those cards that you're discarding, but again with Toluz, you're kind of like storing up those discarded cards and you can utilize them again later when you know Toluz dies and you get them back. In a similar way, Windfall says each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. So this can draw you even more cards again. If one of your opponents has, say, a full grip and you don't, well, you're going to be drawing up to that 7 cards and getting a lot of card advantage out of that. And again, you're going to be getting even more advantage than your opponents are because you also get access to those cards that you're discarding too. But yeah, there are plenty of great looting effects out there. I mean, Frantic Search is another one. Please reprint this one, Wizards. It used to be budget friendly and now it no longer is. Draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, untap up to 3 lands. Yeah, this is basically just a free looting effect, which is fantastic in a lot of decks, even though, again, it is mostly, card selection, but now it is just straight up card advantage again because you draw 2, you discard 2, which you're going to see again later when your commander goes away. And of course, there are some great repeatable discard effects with things like trade routes, which again, definitely needs a reprint. This card, when I started this channel, was like 10 cents, Wizards. Reprint it, it's a fantastic card. And Compulsion, which is also a great card. Regardless, trade route says, pay 1, return target land you control to its owner's hand, but more importantly, by paying 1, you can discard a land card to draw a card. This essentially gives every single land in your deck cycling for 1, which is fantastic, and yeah. Again, you're going to be seeing those lands again when your commander goes away and you get all of them back. And then Compulsion has pay 1 in a blue, discard a card from your hand, draw a card. So yeah, this is just a repeatable discard outlet, kind of like a repeatable, well, this one's more so not looting. I guess this would technically be rummaging. Regardless, instead of it, again, just being card selection, it is straight up card advantage because you're going to be getting those cards back that you're discarding at some point. So you're just replacing cards temporarily for some card advantage that you will eventually get back. So obviously, some cards that can work very well with this commander are cards that have cycling, such as Ash Barrens, Barrenmoor, and Ominous Seas. Ash Barrens has basic land cycling for 1, so by paying 1, you can discard this card and search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put in your hand, then shuffle your library. So yeah, this is great, mana fixing, essentially getting you whatever lands. It can also help you thin out your deck. And also, again, with this commander, you can get this back to then do it again. Speaking of which, we've got yet another land with cycling, but this time it's regular cycling with Barrenmoor for cycling for a black. Discard this card, draw a card. So this is essentially repeatable draw on a land for this deck again, since you can just keep getting it back. So it's a fantastic land to consider for this deck, and yeah, basically any lands with cycling you're going to want to consider. And of course, other cards with cycling, like Ominous Seas, can also be very impactful, especially one that, benefits whenever you're drawing cards like this one. It says whenever you draw a card, put a foreshadow counter on Ominous Seas, remove 8 foreshadow counters from it, and you get an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token, or you can cycle it for 2. So if you need to draw a card with it, great, you can cycle it away and get it back for later, and if you want to get it in play, also great. All those cards that you're going to be drawing with this deck can be used to essentially make some giant Krakens. Next up though, really quick, rules layers out there, please let me know if this works the way I think it does, or, doesn't, not work. You know what I mean. Blink cards could also work with this commander. So cards like Ephemerate, Soul Herder, and Conjurer's Closet can be great ways to blink your commander and take advantage of that ETB. Ephemerate can be done twice, essentially. Soul Herder is just at the end of the end step, and so is Conjurer's Closet. So you can just keep blinking your commander to get that connive every single turn. And again, rules layers, please, please, please let me know if that works, because I don't think that you lose out on the cards that are exiled with your commander. I think it's going to keep adding to it. It's not like a separate pile. I could be wrong though, so please, please, please let me know, because I know it's considered a different permanent, but I think it's still adding to the same pile. Let me know. And if it doesn't work, well, don't include blink cards, okay? But some cards that you definitely should be considering are cards that help you get rid of your commander in a different way, with cards like Village Rites and Viscera Seer. Village Rites says initial cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Again, you are going to be just adding and adding and adding to that giant pile of exiled cards that you're going to be discarding throughout the game, and at some point you're going to want access to those cards, so sacrifice your commander and get all of them. And why not sacrifice your commander for value with something like this? So you draw 2 cards for just 1 mana, which is great, and on top of that you get all those cards that you had exiled back into your hand. And obviously, of course, there are some fantastic repeatable sacrifice outlets in these colors, like, Viscera Seer, sacrifice a creature, scry 1, what's not to love about that? But yeah, being able to sacrifice your commander, whenever you need to is a fantastic thing for this deck. So consider cards that can sacrifice either once for value or, anytime, also for value, which is nice. And of course, some cards that you absolutely need to consider for this deck are cards like Feign Death, Malakir Rebirth, and Undying Evil, which can get your commander right back for very cheap. Feign Death says, until end of turn, target creature gains. When this creature dies, return to the battlefield, tap turn owner's control, they +1 counter on it. Now that counter is nice, doesn't really matter all that much, but the most important part essentially is, this is like a, hey, I'm going to make sure my commander does die in one way or another, again, most likely sacrificing it. So instead of you just, going to the command zone, me having to pay all that mana for you, I'm just going to pay this one right here, and you're going to come right back into play. So you get all those cards that you had exiled with your commander, which is fantastic, and of course on top of that, you connive to discard a card and draw a card again. Or sorry, I mean draw then discard. Connive's a new mechanic, okay? Regardless, there are a lot of these effects, and more seem to keep coming out, and yeah, Malakir Rebirth is a fantastic one because it's on an MDFC land. Wizards, reprint this one as well, please! It is a fantastic card for a lot of decks out there. Choose target creature, you lose to life until end of turn. That creature gains when this creature dies. Return to the battlefield, tap target's owner's control. Again, this being on a land is huge because it's not really taking up a slot in your deck. And of course, keep in mind, when you're searching for these cards, there are other kinds of effects that work with this, like Undying Evil that says target creature gains Undying until end of turn. So it's basically the same thing, but involves counters. So yeah, I guess with this one specifically, you need to ensure that your commander does not have that counter on it though, again from the conniving. So discard a land, I guess? But of course, on the other end of this, though, this works incredibly well with something like Cauldron of Souls, which worked with giving creatures persist, because again, if you are getting that ++1 counter on this commander, that can remove the -1/-1 counter from persist. You can just keep doing that over and over and over again. But speaking of ways to generate an absurd amount of value, some cards like Curator of Mysteries and Archfiend of Ifnir can be fantastic in this deck. Curator of Mystery says, whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1. So yeah, that is a nice additional value, a ton of value throughout the game when you're going to be discarding a ton of cards in this deck. So on top of the card advantage that you're getting from all of this, you're also getting a ton of card selection with this to get to the cards that you actually want. And then a card like Archfiend of Ifnir can be absolutely brutal with this commander. It says, whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. It can be very hard, if not impossible, for your opponents to keep creatures in play with a deck like this when you say, oh, I don't know, have this in play and then wheel, 6-7 cards to discard all those to put -1/-1 counters on all your opponent's creatures equal to the number of cards you discarded. Yeah, this can just wipe out your opponent's boards and just keep being a repeatable, essentially one-sided board wipe again and again and again. On top of each of these cards having cycling in case you need to cycle them away for value, which again, you can get these back because your commander exiles them and you get them back when it dies. But speaking of value though, one card that is incredible with this commander is Bonemizer. Bonemizer says, whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever you discard a land card, add black. Whenever you discard a non-creature non-land card, draw a card. The amount of value that you can get with this is absolutely absurd. So whether you're discarding a creature, land, or non-creature card, you're getting a lot of value. I mean, you're getting either a creature, more mana to, do more things, maybe even cycle more cards to discard more, or you're drawing more cards to just add fuel to your fire. And actually, if you've got a decent amount of creatures in this deck that you're going to be discarding, well, another card to consider is Desecrated Tomb, which says whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black creature token with flying. So again, when your creature card that you're discarding hits your graveyard, you do exile that right away, so you get your 1/1 black bat. But keep in mind, again, it does say one or more, so it only happens one at a time. In a somewhat similar way, a commander that might want to utilize Toluz in the 99 of its deck is Tormod the Desecrator. I guess I should say, if your Tormod the Desecrator deck is Esper, because obviously it has partner, and you would need a partner that is what, Azorius? Regardless if that's the case, Tormod has whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. So yeah, that can get pretty absurd with a commander like this if you've got something like a discard outlet where you're discarding card after card after card, again, one at a time, and you've got Toluz in play, you're exiling those cards one at a time after they hit your graveyard to make some zombies, and yeah, then, you say you lose Toluz, and you get all those cards back, and you discard some more to make even more zombies. So again, for those of you that have Esper Tormod decks out there, rejoice, because you've got yet another bag of holding type card for them. But now, as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Toluz Clever Conductor. And yeah, like I said at the start of this episode, this is probably the commander that I am most excited for out of this entire set so far. It is just, the amount of value that you can generate in a unique way just really speaks to me. I can definitely see myself building a deck, that utilizes a bunch of cycling and, benefits from discarding and discard outlets and then sacrifice outlets as well to just keep, generating more and more value, getting cards exiled, getting them back, discarding more. And yeah, I think there's some pretty spicy things that you can do with it, and I don't think I'm going to be the only player out there that's excited to build around this one. That being said, of course, there are plenty of other exciting cards from this spoiler season. I mean, I've already done 3 other episodes today, so make sure you check those out at some point. And of course, the ones from last week as well, and I think there was one on the weekend too. But yeah, moving forward, there are going to be even more exciting cards coming out, so make sure you're staying tuned for even more quick takes on this channel. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again, and have a good one.